I put my head down and I cried on my desk big time. And then I got up and I'm like, you know what? This is going to be the ultimate challenge as a business owner. And can we rise to the occasion? How can we, there's nobody else here to help us figure out how we're going to move forward. This is really, it's sink or swim time.
What's been the most rewarding part of owning this business for you?
It does not feel like a job. And maybe on one hand, can I think of the days that it has felt like work, and still in the most satisfying, humbling ways possible.
What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan Snod. It Rhymes with Odd, and you're listening and watching the Rhymes with Odd podcast. We have another amazing guest today with you. We have Lindsey Foss, the owner of Real Deals Ankeny. Welcome, Lindsey.
Hello. Thanks for having me on, Ryan.
Thanks for coming on. I was just telling her, my wife was very insistent that I had her on because she loves your store, so we're going to have a lot of fun stuff. Now she'll have a reason to listen to this episode. So.
Absolutely. And I've had the pleasure of seeing Paige in the store. You've been in the store. We try not to call customers by name when their husbands are around, just so that she can kind of fly under the radar a little bit.
The anonymous shopper number 6.
Exactly. Like, we'll keep it between us, Paige, that you're a frequent Real Deal shopper. But we so appreciate the support and just honored to be on today.
Absolutely. Well, and we also both live in Polk City together because
God's country.
I've seen the SUV driving around frequently, and I'm like, this is not a coincidence. I think she lives nearby, so we're only a couple blocks away from each other.
If it's going like 15 miles over the speed limit, it is my husband driving. Let the record show. The Real Deals mobile is, always cruising around town, usually on a loop between like wrestling drop-off, dance drop-off, and Quick Star Donuts is kind of our track.
That's what you want to do.
Yeah.
I know my wife we just got a new SUV, and I wanted her to get custom plates. And she's like, I'm not putting my name in my car, right? I speed way too much. People are going to know who I am. It's not a good idea. So
it is a good thing to help keep you in check. Like, all right, it keeps the road rage at bay a little bit.
Absolutely. So. Very cool. Well, before we jump into kind of the details of your story, I'd love to get some backstory for people that are listening that don't know who you are. So who are you and what do you do?
Yeah. So Lindsey Foss, as we talked about, my husband Jared and I live in Polk City in central Iowa here. We actually both grew up in northeast Iowa, a little teeny town called Riceville, and we're high school sweethearts. That followed us to Iowa State together. Jared studied, city planning. Okay. And I studied public relations. And we ultimately settled into the Polk City area because we can't come in from a small town. We wanted to kind of have that for our future family where we could have smaller school districts and all that good stuff. And yet we both wanted to be involved in the Ankeny area too, to really make some connections, grow our network, which is a really hard thing to do when you're not from the area. You don't have business ties to the area. Our kids weren't of school age yet. It's like, man, how do we make some friends here? And so Jared was a city planner in Ankeny, and I actually worked in the agricultural world. And so zero retail background whatsoever. I do have like a self-proclaimed degree in HGTV. I think that's something that Paige and I share too, is just a passion for that. And after several years and as we were starting to grow our family, we're like, how could we turn this passion into, possibly a business? And so that's kind of where Real Deals got its start, kind of the fast track to our family and how we ended up in Polk City.
Sure. That's awesome to hear. So as you're starting that process to kind of like get really interested in it, did you explore other career paths like interior design? Like what were you doing before you guys started the business for a career?
Yeah. So I was working for the Iowa Soybean Association and had a really great job where I was connecting like consumers with what farmers do and helping to tell people about where our food comes from, and really had a passion for that and got to know so many wonderful families in that way. And as awesome and as exciting as that was, have just always had this itch for entrepreneurship in the background. And we had shopped at Real Deals before. So Real Deals is a franchise, right, as we talked about a little bit ago. So it's an interesting business model in that It's 3 days a week, typically, is how we started out. We have since added Wednesdays as of like June of last year. We added Wednesdays into the mix, but the novelty of it is that we reset the store on the quote-unquote off days, and so that it's a new shopping experience for customers each week when they're in the store. So we have like 8 new home decor displays. We've got all new boutique, and so kind of went from the world of like crop prices to crop tops, if you will, right. Which was a really interesting dynamic. But I had kind of followed along with these Real Deals stores. There are about 50 stores across the country, a couple in Canada. And, you know, I had shopped at some Real Deals stores, was really interested in kind of that business model. What was coming me back, kept bringing me back as a customer was just like that newness each week, in addition to like basically a professional shopping gig and professional decorating gig. Like, sign me up for that.
Sure.
So I was really intrigued by that model. And then we had kind of an interesting story in where we're really having a lot of conversations with the Real Deals team and, you know, trying to figure out if this is a mutually good fit on both ends from the corporate team standpoint and from our family standpoint. Decided to give it a go. Where we had really landed on Ankeny just based on, you know, all of the wonderful things that they have to offer, the great population to draw from, but also wanted kind of that mom and pop shop feel. So we really looked at locations that could help embody that for our business, and what we just really wanted to be known as like that local small town feel where you can call customers like Paige, unless her husband's around. We don't call her by name, obviously. So, but we really wanted to embody that. So we looked at locations, ultimately settled in the right one. So kind of our timeline was we signed our Real Deals franchise agreement the same morning that we signed like our lease space.
Okay.
About 2 hours later, I gave in my notice at my job. And we're like, all right, it was a big day, but we're going to celebrate with a beer tonight. And really, I have some reservations over that, and discovered I was pregnant.
Oh, wow. The same day.
All in the same day. So we were like, we got to go all in on this thing now as we're growing our family, expecting number 2. And we haven't looked back ever since. So it's been a whirlwind and a lot of on-the-job training, especially this whole owning a business in the middle of a pandemic thing was really interesting waters to navigate. But we have, I'd like to say, made it out on the other side and had a lot of growth as a result. Absolutely.
It's a great, interesting story. I'm curious, too, when you said you first shopped at a Real Deals location, where's the closest one here? And was that your first experience with the brand, was like walking in as a customer?
Yeah. So up in northern Iowa, Mason City, Iowa was the first Real Deal store that I had ever shopped at. And again, I was just captivated as a customer, like just this sense of urgency to come in on the days that you're open, and this kind of mentality that was created of what's here today could be gone tomorrow. And then ultimately, the name is Real Deals. And so part of what is so great about our franchise is that we have buying power in having a lot of stores, which we're able to get vendors to provide discounts, drives down prices on our end that we're then able to pass along the savings to our customer and have lower prices. And like, we really want to own up to that name, Real Deals, and create that boutique experience, but at really affordable prices. And so I was all in as a customer on that and thought, like, why hasn't somebody brought this to the central Iowa area? And kept asking myself, like, well, if I don't do it, who will? And if somebody else does, am I going to be kicking myself if they see success? Or, I just couldn't live with myself of the what if I don't do it. I knew that we would try really, really hard to make this thing a go. And if it didn't work out, it wouldn't be from a lack of effort. It was more like, we're going to go all in, especially when we found out we were growing our family. Like, all right, there's no looking back now. So
I connect with that because I know Paige and I were expecting Roan, our first, when I left for my business to go full time. And everyone's like, you're crazy. Why would you? I'm like, I got to do it now. Like, I got to get the thing started before he's born, because it's like, and then, you know, like you said, the regret could catch up to you. So I totally connect with that.
And it's like, you're never going to have more time. Like, especially as kiddos come along and your family dynamic changes. Absolutely. There's never going to be any more time. And so it was really important for us to have something that, you know, I really connected with, that I had a passion in, and especially as we were growing our family, to just be able to pursue that, and who we are as individuals. And now my husband, as we kind of talked about, is all in on Real Deals too. And so I know we're going to touch base on what that dynamic looks like, but it's riding that delicate balance of like, we want to apply the skill sets, the things that we're each good at, and we want to maintain our own identities, but yet we've got overall business outlook and how to provide for our family ultimately. Absolutely. So,
well, I know, what year did you take ownership of the Ankeny location?
Yeah, so we started Real Deals Ankeny in 2018.
Okay.
And my husband was able to come into the mix in a very part-time capacity at the end of 2020. So we had just kind of gotten our legs under us with a full year of owning the business when a global pandemic hits. And that was like the 7 stages of grief of first starting out of like just shock over, as the entire country was, and everybody, regardless of their industry, is obviously very impacted. And while I wouldn't wish the pandemic to ever happen again, and, you know, hate a lot of the side effects for so many families impacted, from a business ownership standpoint, there was a lot of on-the-job training that happened in a very condensed amount of time. It was like, we're jumping in off the high dive with no swimming lessons here, because nobody had experienced anything quite to that level. And we really needed to lean into our core values as people, into our faith, into how we wanted to interact with our customers, and go all in on that, because there were so many other uncertainties with regards to product availability, freight surcharges. I mean, our freight went up tenfold. Our product availability went down tenfold. It was just really wild times from a retail perspective. Again, as all industries were really affected, but we really took an approach of like, we're going to meet our customers where they're at. We're going to offer these online sales each week, and it's from, everybody can tune in from the comfort of their home, where it's safe and everything. And we had to really pivot our business model. We were selling a lot of boutique, and suddenly nobody's going anywhere anymore. It's like, we don't have anything that we need to wear clothes for, but we are spending a lot of time in our homes. And people like Paige, who are wanting to redo their home office space or their living space. Now suddenly they're spending so much time at home, not going on vacations, and, you know, kind of reinvesting some of those funds. And we feel so fortunate that so many customers wanted to keep those dollars locally to help out the small guys. So it was really an opportunity for us to show not only our products and our great prices, but also just the service that we can provide in terms of giving some home styling advice, and again, meeting our customers where they were at. Like, you can tune in from the comfort of your couch. We were doing hand deliveries with like our kids in the car seats in the back, and contactless deliveries and pickup times, and just really wild times, to the point where we were growing pretty quickly, and was unboxing home decor till 2 a.m. kind of thing. And we're like, from a family standpoint, we're like, something's got to give here. And so my husband came on in a part-time capacity from his city planning job, and he did that part-time, came on to Real Deals part-time. Really, was
he still working full-time? And then he'd like at night he'd come help? Or
yeah, he went down to part-time with his job, because a lot of the projects he was working on kind of came to a screeching halt, as much of the country did. But for some reason, these online sales really took off to the point where we were really needing that extra helping hand. He brought a skill set that I do not have, and he is quick with a box cutter, really organized, type A, can get products received in a really efficient way. I can set it up and sell it all day, but the back end stuff is a whole nother beast. And so we really discovered pretty quickly, like, all right, this is working pretty well to have my husband Jared take ownership in this kind of space, the back end, the back office type of things for the business, clean up all my record-keeping books and stuff that were in need of some dire attention, and then to allow me to focus on other sides of the business, which is, just customer outreach and marketing and merchandising and bringing the products in and things. So it was early 2021. He came on board full-time, and we've just kind of been doing this little gig ever since.
Sure. Well, and I think to stay in that vein too, I think it's interesting that you co-own a business with your spouse, because I think a lot of people talk about the challenges of owning a business, but then add in the extra layer of like, you're with this person all day, which could be great if you obviously love them and have a family with them, but it could also be hard too, because it's like you just can't get away. What are some of the fun things about your guys' dynamic and how you manage that relationship as co-owners of a business and partners, but also partners in life with your children and your family?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for us, it was the only sustainable model to be able to keep things going. And as you're starting a young family and you've got a young business and you want to be present in all the things, right? You want to be all in with your kids. You want to be all in launching your business. And both of them are full-time jobs in their own right, and then some. And so we really struggled early on with, who's a bit of resentment, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I'm a bit resentful that he's able to be home with our young kids, and he's a bit resentful that, the business has taken off and I'm pursuing my passion. And so, we just ultimately had to have a come to Jesus meeting of how do we want to proceed with our family. And the whole reason we did this little side gig, which I really thought was a 3-day-a-week job, I didn't realize it was like a 15-day-a-week job when I signed up. But we really, ultimately looked at what are those core values for our family, in our marriage, and how does this business fit in, and ultimately decided, like, all right, let's bring you into the fold, and then we can set goals together. And, I think it makes perfect sense to be in business with a business partner as your life partner, because you've got those goals. You've got personal goals, you've got professional goals, and you can align those. And there is no work-life separation anyway. I mean, it's all one big life. And so we figured, you know what, we might as well both go in on this. And that was nerve-wracking when we both had stable corporate jobs. We had benefits. Right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There was a lot of things that we needed to figure out. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we figured, you know what, it's worth it. And we've got fail-safe options. Nothing needs to be forever. We both have degrees in other fields. Hopefully, if we came with our tail between our legs, somebody would take us back. But we're like, again, we don't know till we try. And this ship's not going to go down without trying our darndest. So,
sure. Well, and I think as the business was growing too, did you just do apparel, or when did you get into like home decor? Was it always the mix between the two?
We always had the mix of home decor and clothing boutique, but it just really flipped on its head when people weren't going anywhere. Like, it was more clothes. I'd say 60-40 clothes to decor was kind of our sales ratio. And you think about your own home, and you're putting on new clothes a lot more frequently than you're, redoing your mantle, And so from that vantage point, I get it, why people are buying more clothes. Or you have it's a seasonal thing too. You've got seasons where you're buying Christmas decor or whatever that case may be, but there's always a need for a new top for an event coming up or a vacation or those kinds of things. So we always had that mix, but we didn't have it kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit over what sold more based on the seasonality of it. But when things shut down with COVID, and for a good year and a half in there probably, it was 85-90% home decor is where it's at. Very interesting.
Well, it's good that you had that backbone, something you could pivot to, where it's not like trying to sell some different things that people aren't interested in that at the time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And we really, I tried to look at early on too, like, what are some things that we can be selling where we can be considered a necessity to stay open? Like, do we start selling some food or some eyeglasses or mattresses? Like, I just looked at all these different things that were like, all right, we could technically still stay open. And we were just like, you know what? That's not who we are. That's not who the Real Deals brand is. Let's stick to what we know. If it means we're closed longer, if it means, you know, we take a dip in sales, we just didn't really want to ruin the integrity of our shop, who we were as people and what our interests were. So we kind of stuck with what we knew, which was home decor and clothes, and just kind of tried to ride the wave, see where it was going to go.
Well, and it's interesting too, because my first touch-in with your company was on Small Business Saturday. I want to say like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, hey, we should go. Like, we're going to go small Business Saturday shopping. I'm like, okay, we'll go. And it was funny because we were mentioning earlier before that the affordability was not something I think of when I think of boutique. I always think of like, it's usually super expensive, very like specialized items, you know, and I was very surprised when I went in. One, it was wall-to-wall people, which can be expected on probably your busiest day in the store.
Yeah, it's a big one.
But then also just the fact that I didn't like cringe when I saw the prices, and it was like stuff that I could see, almost everything in that store I could see in our house, which was kind of scary because I'm like, Shield, put your blinders on, Paige. We have a list. Like, we're getting some things. But what's been kind of the thing in terms of styling to get things that are universal, so it's not like, you know, only certain people, it's more of a widespread adoption rate for the styles and the things that you carry for the clothes and for the home decor items.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying too that you're like, okay, I can envision this stuff in our space and that you didn't cringe at the prices. It's always the ultimate compliment when a significant other can come in and like hang out in the space for a good 20 minutes. Not every guy can do that. And to kind of look around and say, oh, you know, this stuff's actually pretty cool. Ultimate compliment. So thank you.
You bet.
And, you know, I just look at ultimately, I don't know, having no business acumen or retail background whatsoever, I don't know if this is the right mindset to have, but I think about from a pricing standpoint, what would I personally pay? And it's that line between what's a good value without diminishing the perception of what the quality is. And, you know, we stand behind our products. We try to do locally made, Iowa made, USA made products whenever we can. And so we stand behind that. But at the same time, we want to be able to find the best deals for our customers, again, to be able to pass along that savings. And so from a pricing standpoint, I just think about what I would be willing to pay. And if I come across a lot of cool home decor and boutique pieces, I'm like, I think that would really go over in our shop if it was about half the price. And so, you know, we have to say no to a lot of things because I don't feel like it upholds our Real Deals brand. And then on the home decor side, I really try to only purchase things that I could make a case for in my own home or that I could confidently sell to a customer. And I'm not going to bring in things that are so far off from my own style that I can't, or that my team can't reasonably be able to sell that. And again, maybe that's not the right approach to have, but we ultimately have that authority over our store to carry products that we believe in and at a price that we would feel comfortable as a consumer buying them for. And so that's kind of been our checklist is like, would we put this in our own home and would we pay that price for it? And if it doesn't hit both of those boxes, then it doesn't make it to the floor. That's
really cool. When I see a lot of just it's so unique with just the limited time, the days that you can go. Because like you said, if it's affordable and it's only a limited amount of time, you're almost conditioning the customer to come in every week or come in every 2 weeks and say, oh, wonder what deals there are. It's like this renewed shopping experience every time, which I think is really cool because most stores, you look at big box retailers, they're open 360 days a year.
Right.
The things never move or never change, which is nice for your everyday, you know, grocery store or whatever. Like, I don't want the milk to move every week, but
oh gosh, it'd be madhouse.
Yeah, but for something like that, where it's kind of like it's like a safari. You're out here like hunting for something cool. It's like, oh, and you just you roam the whole store every time you come in. So it's kind of a unique experience that way, I think.
It's the discovery process. It's, taking the other ultimate compliment, aside from guys thinking that some stuff's cool too, is like, I could make a couple trips around and not see everything. And we love that because it means that there's just hidden finds in every area of the shop. And as it relates to just that creating the sense of urgency with those 3 days a week, it is a bit of a conditioning of the customer of, if you see it and you like it, you better get it, because the next time you come in, it very well could be gone or it's moved across the store or whatever. There was a lot of confusion right away of like, okay, this was here when I was here about a month ago. Where did it go? It's like, well, it sold. And we are a little bit different of a model too, in that we don't have incredibly deep quantities on things. We do try to carry a wide variety, and it's like a mile long and an inch deep kind of mentality of like, let's carry a wide variety, but we don't have deep quantities on those things, just so that the customer can know that, all right, I better get it while I see it. And with that being in mind, we try to order from certain vendors pretty consistently. So if somebody really needs something, we always try to make an effort to get that particular piece for their home or their wardrobe whenever it makes sense. But we would really rather just continually carry in new products week in and week out and just get customers coming back to be inspired and see what's new.
That's really cool. And do you typically send things back to your suppliers, or is it one of those like you'd buy 100 SKUs of a product in only 5 quantity, and then once it's gone? Or is it like, oh, we've had these things that we're rotating out this week technically, we have excess inventory. Do you send it back, or do you just like try to cycle it through to get it off the shelf so you don't have to keep paying shipping and freight?
Right. Yeah. So we don't send anything back to our vendors or anything. We just either move it around in the store. We maybe tuck it away for a little while. We have generally about 14 home decor displays, and I'd say 8 to 10 of those are new each week. And so sometimes that's too just like totally taken down a display. We put up something new over here. So we move things around. We pair it with different items and, try to spark customers' imaginations in that way. But if something hasn't sold, we tuck it away for a little amount of time, and then we'll maybe bring it out later and pair it with something new to, just spark customers' minds. But we also, from a business standpoint, I mean, what's not out on the shelves isn't making any money either. And so we just can recognize pretty early on, I make some mistakes. Don't tell my husband, but I do make some ordering mistakes here and there. And so the thought is also, just as we want to kind of get products in the store and ultimately out, same thing if we recognize that a product is a dud, we clearance it out pretty aggressively, pretty early on, get it moving, and then check it off the list. And so we're not really carrying over any merchandise from season to season, with the exception of let's tuck it away for a couple weeks, bring it back out, and maybe it'll be a better fit for X, Y, and Z event or season or whatever that looks like. But we try to be pretty aggressive in just getting it moving. And if there's ever any outlets where we can donate product that isn't performing, clothes that haven't gone over, if we can donate those to like a women's and children's shelter, if there's some home decor that we can donate to, a family that's going through a hard time trying to rebuild their home or something, and we can provide some of those benefits, we would much rather the product go to those kinds of outlets and then leave space and money for new stuff for the shop.
That's great. I think it'd be interesting to hear a little bit about, you opened in 2018, correct?
Yep.
What was the biggest challenge for you guys when you first got started compared to the types of challenges you guys are facing in the current day?
Yeah, I think there was just a huge misunderstanding on my end of what this whole business ownership gig looked like and what just the sheer amount of hours and back-end work it took. I knew I had confidence in the products, in our marketing, and our consumers. I just didn't know how there was going to be time in the day for it all. And so I think that's ultimately always the challenge with, we're all busy, regardless of whatever line of work we're in, but especially as business owners and parents and just not having enough hours in the day. I think that's always going to be the chronic struggle. I've yet to figure out a way to create more hours in the day. But I would say that, bringing my husband into the fold, we have a really incredible team who's able to help oversee the day-to-day stuff.
Because how many employees do you have now? Or did you start with just yourself, and then how many do you have now?
Yeah, we had a couple part-time employees to start. I think we had 3 part-time employees to start. Now we have 7 part-time employees, and that can range anywhere from 1 Saturday a month to 30 hours a week. Mm-hmm. And so it's really all over the board, but it's always gals who are really excited about helping to serve our customers, have a great eye for style, able to pass along recommendations. So we've got an awesome team for that, which has freed us up from a time perspective to get to focus on some other things, and especially our family. But I'd say now the struggle that we face is just, what does our small business look like in the retail space? We are not out here trying to compete with the Amazons and the Costcos of the world, but there are some of those things that they're able to provide to their customers, like convenience and different unique product offerings and affordable prices and things of that nature that we do want to borrow some of those concepts. So I think it is just figuring out, how do we fit in this really robust e-commerce space? Where does our little brick and mortar store fit into the mix? How do we drive home to customers the importance of coming in, touching, feeling products, being called by name, asking, hey, Paige, how are you and Ryan and Roan doing today? And just kind of that face-to-face interaction that you can't get through the online touch points. It's driving home that importance, and yet also being available to our customers, and again, meeting them where they're at. And it's a delicate balance, but it's one that we're really looking to refine here in the coming year.
That's super interesting, because I know with it, obviously a huge focus on the retail experience from days you're open, the shopping experience.
Right. How
do you translate that into the digital side, with online being such a huge piece? Because I know you guys do a lot of like Facebook Lives, right, with unboxings, and then
right.
Like you probably have an email newsletter. Like walk me through the mix of what you guys are doing to stay in touch digitally.
Yeah. So we have a marketing suite with like a loyalty program. Customers can be earning points for their purchases and come back in. We like to call it girl math, in terms of, the more you spend, the more you ultimately save, kind of thing. And but we have email newsletters, text messages, some of those good kinds of things to get in front of our customers and keep them coming back in. But as it relates to the online space, and another area where we're trying to like cut through the noise, is authenticity is so big for us. Is just like, you get Lindsey and Jared in online. And so if you order something off of our website, you're getting a handwritten thank you note, knowing that it was probably pulled by Lindsey and Jared or one of our team members, and we'll, keep track of, you liked this top, or you were looking at this one in store, we got this one online and a different color, kind of thing. And so we really tried to provide that human element of knowing our customers and their preferences, and really trying to keep that top of mind. And as it relates to online as well, just our social media presence is we try to be as authentic as possible, as real as we can. This past year has been really a roller coaster from an economic standpoint, and I think any small business owner would tell you that we've had some very, very high days. We've had some very low days, sometimes in the same month. And so we are really relying on our customers to recognize the value that comes with coming in store, getting a personalized experience, how that translates online. And we want to continue to grow our e-commerce site. That's a big goal upcoming of ours, but without losing some of those physical touch points, as you said, of like, again, creating that sense of urgency, and yet keeping it personal for our customers. And how do we balance that with just the whole buy something online, get it delivered to your doorstep in 2 days, and being able to price compare and some of the things that big box retailers are able to provide. We just really try to drive home what you can get by supporting a small business and hope that customers will follow along for the ride.
That's great. I think it's interesting too, now that you've gotten your husband in the fold of everything. I know this happened with us, with Paige and I, like when I did my business, now she's doing her own business full time and we're exploring other things. Have there been other business opportunities you've looked at, whether it's expanding Real Deals to more locations or other entrepreneurship stuff? Because I feel like once you get the itch, it starts to just kind of take over your thought process of like, what else could we do?
It is so true. It's like, you just keep wanting to scratch for more. And it's like, well, we got a good thing going here. How else could this grow? And we have looked at other business opportunities throughout the years. I'm not going to be the first to admit that selling women's sweaters is not my husband's cup of tea. He would be a golf pro in Arizona somewhere if I let him. And so we're continually looking at ways that he can have some of his passions and, you know, diversify our business portfolio. Don't have everything in just the Real Deals basket, but we have also had the great opportunity to be able to help other Real Deals stores and get them, you know, if they're struggling in a certain way or just looking to, you know, expand their offerings, expand into the online space, whatever that looks like. We can just help provide some insights, get them connected to some other resources to be able to help grow their own businesses. So that's been a really fun and unique position to be able to just see how other businesses operate, even under the same Real Deals umbrella. Because we have so much autonomy, we are all really we have kind of the same end game, but we go about it in a completely different way oftentimes. So it's really interesting to see how other businesses operate, be able to shed some light on what works well for our businesses. It's a great mutual learning curve. So we have about 14 stores that we have the opportunity to help with from a mentoring standpoint and to continue to see what the evolution looks like for Real Deals footprint within Iowa and some of the surrounding states to continue to grow the brand, which is really exciting.
So if you had another location open up, you would just open up a second franchise and have someone run that, correct? Or would it be, I mean, with the mentorship, is that just Real Deals corporate talking like, hey, your guys' store is doing great. You seem like you're, you know, can you help the other stores? Like, how does that relationship work with you being a franchisee?
Yeah, we work closely with the corporate team, and we have overall, just as we kind of talked about that, we have core values within our individual business. We do overall on a corporate team level so that we have some continuity between the shops and that we are able to universally maintain great price points and great merchandising and some of those good things, and overall just the feel and the service that we're able to provide to the customers. So I work closely with corporate team to then be able to make sure that on an individual franchise level that we're all doing our part to help elevate the overall brand. So as it relates to further growing the business, you know, we'll really be talking with potential business owners in different communities and just seeing if it's a mutually great fit for Real Deals to be in this community and for them to be a member of the Real Deals family. So that's
really cool. As kind of the years are progressing, what's been kind of the fun part of this experience? You mentioned it's obviously a lot of time and commitment. What's been the most rewarding part of owning this business for you?
It does not feel like a job. And I maybe on one hand can I think of the days that it has felt like work, and still in the most satisfying, humbling ways possible. So that's what kind of keeps us coming back. I think the worst day that I can think of in being a business owner was we got a call at the beginning of the pandemic from our biggest Christmas decor vendor that Christmas was canceled, basically. Like, we're literally canceling all Christmas product. It was in production at the time, and just based on all the chain of events, it was like, all right, I don't think we're going to be able to offer you Christmas product. And then it was just call after call from different vendors that were like, I don't know that it's going to happen this year. And being a home decor store where that's where a lot of our bread is buttered in seasonal decor and just thinking about the holidays. And that was really when it drove home to me from a business perspective, like, man, we're not messing around here with how just the whole supply chain is going to be affected within this pandemic. And, kind of bringing it full circle to like back to what's rewarding and what it was a challenge that like I put my head down and I cried on my desk big time. And then I got up and I'm like, you know what? This is going to be the ultimate challenge as a business owner. And can we rise to the occasion? How can we, there's nobody else here to help us figure out how we're going to move forward. And that was such a like pivotal moment in our business to like, all right, this is real. It's sink or swim time. And I've never had swimming lessons, maybe should have in a variety of areas. But ever since that point, it's like kind of taken on this mindset as business owners, like, and in any walk of life, like we've got this mountain ahead of us and like, you can either like really climb up there dragging your feet or you can go up singing up the mountain. I'm not going to say I'm singing every day, but generally, it's a pretty happy tune to try and get to the top of whatever mountain that is that we're facing. And I think that's just ultimately when you know that you're in the right line of work for you. So I think the thing that's been the best about being able to be in this business is being presented with a variety of challenges and figuring out how we can work through those now with my husband in the mix to figure out how we're going to work towards those things together, how we can ultimately service the community, our family, without compromising our faith and all those other great things that are important to us. And so we're just so thankful that we get to do what we do every day.
That's so cool. I love hearing your story. Thank you so much for coming in. If people are listening, they're like, where can I find more about Real Deals? Where can you send people to find out more about your shop?
Absolutely. So we have a website, ankeny.realdeals.net. We're also located in Uptown, Ankeny, Iowa, open Wednesdays through Saturdays. And you can always connect with us on social media too, Real Deals Ankeny.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate just telling your story, and I hope people get some great value from hearing how this all came about, because I know a lot of people in the area are aware of the store and how unique and cool it is. So,
I appreciate that. I listened to some of your podcasts before coming in, Ryan. Was really not sure what value I could provide in comparison to the ultra marathoner who's running 200 miles with thumbtacks in his shoes and stuff. But I'm like, got to thinking about it. I'm like, that's kind of the life of a business owner is you're running on end with all these Legos in your shoes, all this kind of stuff. That's kind of what it feels like to be a working parent sometimes. So in a very twisted sense, I can kind of relate to him. But I just appreciate you having me on and a chance to talk about our story.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on. If you've made it this far in the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're on Apple iTunes, give us a 5-star review. And make sure to tune into the next episode. My name is Ryan Snod. It rhymes with odd, and you're listening to the Rhymes with Odd podcast. Peace.